Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Visibility Era. It's Bridget Eileen Cisco here today with a little solo episode. My dear Lydia is a little under the weather, so I wanted to do a topic that is a little different, honestly, from what we normally talk about. Visibility Era is all about helping business owners, product companies, authors learn how to get more visible for the cool things that they're doing on the planet through PR and media exposure. So we interview, industry experts, we interview TV producers and writers and all these really cool people who help with that process. And I wanted to do something a little bit different because this is like near and dear to my heart. So, what I'm going to talk about today is the 7 things I learned about marketing from Seth Godin and Alex Hormozi. And you might be like, okay, how does that have anything to do with visibility? Now, hear me out. It absolutely has to do with you getting your brand more visible. Because if you can make sure that your marketing is on point, you can get more sales. You understand some of these concepts. I just think they're simple yet genius. It can absolutely help your business in the lens of, growing, whether it's your audience base, making sure that you can actually sell more. It might just change the way that you show up, even if you're on a podcast or an interview, or how you talk about your services and who you market them to. So we're going to go into this today. And I like to think of myself as that person who will learn all the things so that you don't have to. So yeah, buckle up. Feel free if you're watching this live to say hi. And if you are listening to this on the podcast while you're driving in the car or on YouTube, definitely come hang out in our Facebook group. It's called Visibility on Purpose Community. We have a lot of great business owners in here. So feel free to hop on in there if you aren't there yet. So, why am I interested in these topics? A little backstory for everyone if I've never told this story here. I've had a number of sales and marketing jobs throughout my own career. And actually, when I must have been 17 or 18 because I had my license at this point. And my first sales job was working for a company called Leah Sophia. And if anyone remembers Leah Sophia, it was a direct sales, it was a network marketing company, actually, come to think of it. It was a direct sales jewelry company, but this is like before the internet was cool. So I was 17 or 18 years old. I was going to these middle-aged women's houses all over New Jersey. I'd bring my jewelry set up and they'd buy. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now, I definitely wasn't the most qualified person to be selling jewelry by any means. I probably wasn't even wearing it myself much, right? But I learned some really important things about sales there. Number one, building relationships, which we've talked about so many times on this podcast, building relationships, being human, actually caring to get to know people. But another thing I learned is that, I wasn't really selling what I thought I was selling. I thought I was selling jewelry. It was really about what that jewelry meant to these women, right? It meant looking good at a party that they would be going to, or looking good on their next date night with their husband or their partner. So when I started to understand that it wasn't just about the jewelry, and it was also a social thing, right? So they were coming out, they were meeting with their girlfriends, it was this whole event. It wasn't just about the jewelry. It wasn't just selling that one thing, which I'll go into this point a little bit later on in this first sales. I after that, the years go by and I decide after college I get my first job and it's at Yelp in New York City. And, there's a lot of different functions at Yelp. Yelp is a huge company at this point. There are offices globally. It's a pretty big thing. I was in the sales department. So I was tasked with selling advertising space on Yelp, meaning I was going to be cold calling 100 business owners a day, around 100, based on my territory where I would be focusing on. And I was going to try to sell them Yelp advertising space. Now, I didn't love that job, but it taught me again a lot about sales and marketing. I realized the times when I was the most successful, it was when I got a chance to actually know these business owners and find out the real reason for wanting to grow their own business, right? Because advertising was more of like a how, right? They have this desire to grow their company for whatever reason. And ads was a way that they could do that. So once I started to connect those dots, it did become a lot easier. So the important message here was I'm not just selling advertising space, I'm selling more time with their families. I'm selling more time with their grandkids. And honestly, it was around this time that I started to binge all things personal development, sales, entrepreneurship, all the books, all the podcasts. And that leads me into our topic for today, which is 7 things I learned about marketing from Seth Godin and Alex Hormozi. So, first of all, and it wasn't until many years later that I was introduced to these names. So, first of all, who are these people? So, Seth Godin, this is one of my favorite books by him, but he's written like 19 best-selling books, and he's not just an author. He got started with running a number of different businesses, exiting from those businesses, starting another business again, and he really synthesized everything that he learned across all of those different companies and the level of success that he received at those companies and put them into books. So you can access, his books everywhere. My favorite is This is Marketing by Seth Godin. And it's one of those books that you likely want to come back to time and time again. It's just like really, really good. Please take my word for it. It's really good. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that he speaks about in that book specifically, and then Alex Hormozi. And you might not have ever heard about Alex Hormozi until he did this like huge launch for his most recent book. This is the most recent book. It was $100 million leads. And I mean, it was really impressive. He had like so many affiliates selling it for him. I learned a lot about affiliate marketing through just like watching what he was doing with that. But he also has been in business for a while, right? He had a brick and mortar gym company, and he realized that if he went into the licensing model of things, he could grow the company. So he scaled companies to like 120 million cumulative sales. He's just a smart guy. He now has a holding company where he like has other businesses underneath him and he helps them grow. So again, 2 really, really smart guys. And I took some time before this episode today to write down the 7 things that I learned from them. So let's go into this today. Now, if you've seen any of my most recent posts, we have a sale going on for Visibility and Purpose for our product that Lydia recorded called Find Your Irresistible digital course. And it's all about branding and positioning. And with that, I've been really sitting with, why do we want to have a message on point? Like, what is the purpose? What is the benefit of that? And so I've been, rereading a lot of these books that I just love. And number 1 here, and this is marketing. He says, marketing creates culture, status, and affiliation. So this is Seth Godin. Marketing creates culture, status, and affiliation. So we start to ask that question, why do people buy, right? What is that driver behind making purchasing decisions? Now, when someone buys something, they're not just buying the product. They're buying what the purchase of that product says about them. Let me say it again. So they're not just buying the product. They're also buying what the purchase of that product says about them. Right? Because when we make buying decisions, typically out of pain, pleasure, to save time, to save effort, to save money, convenience, there are all different reasons that we buy. But there's also buying based on what are our values. And I feel like designer handbags are a really good example of this. In my opinion, I actually don't have any designer handbags. This is funny. Some of them aren't even that nice or good looking, but it's about the affiliation with that brand. It's about what holding that bag says about you as a person. It's not just about the bag itself. So through the purchase of that bag, it says something because it's all about status and affiliation. When you purchase a product, it says something about you. Luxury cars do this too, right? So people who purchase like a luxury vehicle, it says something about them. It's a status symbol. We've literally heard that used. So you can think about this with your own product, your own goods, your own services. When someone purchases what you offer, what does that say about them? Why would they want to purchase what you're offering based on this idea of status and this symbol that it puts out into the world? What if you're someone who shops at REI? The other day I went to that store, REI, and it's very much like an adventure, thrill seeker, lots of Patagonia, lots of Columbia, all of these brands, and all of those brands say something about who we are as consumers. So to shop there, you're probably adventurous, you're probably outdoorsy. All of these things, these values tie into the status and the affiliation of what you're actually selling. So again, Godin says, marketing creates culture, status, and affiliation. So for your own product, what is the status that you're selling? Through someone purchasing your product or service, what are they gaining in status through the purchase of that thing? Even when someone I think hires their first employee, even if it's an intern, it kind of elevates the status, right? Because it's like, oh, it's not just me doing this thing anymore. It is, I'm doing this and I have someone helping me, right? So again, it's this idea of status. Very, very interesting. Okay, number 2, also inspired by Seth Godin, but I'm sure that Alex Hormozi talks about this too. Know your people. And he says, you better be asking yourself the question, who's it for? Because you can't change everyone. And I find this extremely, extremely helpful. Knowing that you can just focus on like your people who want something and that your product or service can be the solution to that, it honestly becomes like really easy math. So, for example, say your people that you love to serve and you love to work with are health conscious women who really care about the products that they put on their skin. So, with that information, all of the products you make, they're going to be organic. They're going to be like phthalate free. I think that's something. They're going to be BPA free. They're going to be fragrance free. They're going to be all the frees. Nothing synthetic is going to be in that product. And it doesn't matter that your product is more expensive because these women will pay because they value, again, going back to values, which is one thing that in Find Your Irresistible is talked about, because they value health more than money in that moment. Knowing your people, everything is easier. And you know what? When I was working with a lot of spiritually focused business owners, I mean, I think I dealt with this myself too. You wanted to serve everyone, you wanted to help everyone. But knowing that you focus on a specific subset of the population who's experiencing like a specific something, it's going to be way easier for your sales copy. It's going to be way easier for any conversation that you have. So knowing your people. So you're asking yourself this question, who's my work for? Because I can't change everyone. And this brings me into my third one, which is also by Seth. He says that the best ideas aren't instantly embraced. And that you actually need to create change through your message, through your words, through the ads that you put out, because not everyone wants to be changed. So to like put this idea into the world, we need to build trust. And we've even felt this for Visibility on Purpose, right? Entrepreneurs who haven't like worked for a big company that might have had like an in-house PR team, or even if maybe they had a previous business where they worked with a publicist. But for those who have never been any of those two before, we actually found that we needed to educate a lot. And this past year for Visibility and Purpose has been an education journey on like, what is PR? Why would this be beneficial for your company? Why in addition to social media marketing should you be making sure that PR is on your radar and pitching yourself to magazines and getting in front of journalists and building those relationships are important, right? Because those best ideas aren't instantly embraced. And if your people aren't aware of these things yet, then you need to create a change. You need to make it important. And there is a really great example. Lydia knows I talk about this podcast all the time, My First Million. And they were sharing a story around toothpaste. And they said that, in the 1920s, like toothpaste wasn't really a thing. It just like wasn't a thing, even though they knew that toothpaste would like help with cavities and plaque and all these things. Like that wasn't enough to make someone buy. So the angle that they actually took to sell toothpaste in the beginning by a marketer, he found the way to get people to use toothpaste, which was, that gross feeling on your teeth when like you haven't brushed your teeth. He focused on that. He said, I have this thing that's going to get rid of that gross feeling on your teeth. And that's how toothpaste became a thing in the world. Because at that time, doctors weren't like, dentists weren't like, hey, you need toothpaste, you need this. So that's the power of like a marketer who is able to bring a big idea into the world in a way that makes people want to buy. We have to create that change ourselves. We have to make it important, right? Especially if people don't think it's important yet, and taking those different angles so you can get so creative. I thought that was a hilarious story. Okay, number 4. don't make your product for everyone. We know that. And even, Lydia and I thought a lot about that concept for our courses. Pitch party certainly isn't for everyone, right? If you have if you're a huge company, you probably already have an in-house PR team, and they're probably managing like your crisis management, your media outreach. They're booking everything for you. They're focusing on the brand reputation. Like, our program is not for that person. Companies that are making, over $250,000 a year, they likely would just hire a publicist. They don't want to do this themselves. So when thinking about this fourth one, which is don't make your product for everyone, we basically had to ask ourselves, okay, who is at a very, very specific point in their own trajectory of business? What are they experiencing? And why would this course be beneficial for them to learn the skills of to transform their business? So, we've really focused on authors who know nothing about getting themselves visible. They don't realize that they need to be a personal brand, yet they want everyone to know about their book. So Pitch Party is for those authors who want everyone to know about their book, but literally have no idea how to get started. We're also for those product companies that are on the rise, right? Maybe you're like a homemade synthetic free candle company and you have this really cool product, but again, no one knows about it. And you might not have like the huge budget to work with a publicist just yet. So we are that perfect point in time why someone would want to purchase Pitch Party. And it's also likely because, we have the information and they want to save the time and they don't want to have to learn it themselves. Right. So for those product companies, and then for those other types of brands, we work with a lot of holistic practitioners. We work with a lot of interior designers and real estate professionals. We work with who else? Gosh, chiropractors, acupuncturists, and all of them, again, are at that specific point in time where it's like more people need to know about my stuff. I'm thinking about writing a book. I don't really want to hire a PR company right now. I want to learn how to do this myself. I want the information like given to me. So they purchase it. So what we found is that don't make your product for everyone. Make it for exact moment when someone would actually find it useful, and speak to those people at that exact moment. So questions you could be asking yourself are like, what are my, those ideal customers or those ideal clients, what are they currently experiencing? If we can go back to this like skincare example. Say that you have a product-based company and it's like a holistic fragrance-free skincare company and people are experiencing acne. And this is a pain moment, right? So it could be uncomfortable. They don't like the way that they look. And you're able to talk to them in your marketing, in your sales copy, in any way that you broadcast a message out about your company and what you do, to speak to that person who has that debilitating acne. It's like you wake up in the morning and you're like, why? Where did this come from? And you're able to talk to them in that current moment so that person feels seen. Because anytime that we are selling something or doing our marketing, we want to have that customer self-identify. We want them to raise their hand and say, "Ooh, that's for me. That is exactly for me. I want that right now." Okay, so that was number 4. Don't make your product for everyone. Number 5, this is one from Alex Hormozi. Understand the problem-solution cycle. All businesses solve a problem for a very specific person who's experiencing something. All businesses solve a problem, all of them. So if you're like, and sometimes people don't like that word, so you can also see it as like offer opportunities, if you like that way better, right? So again, if the problem is, if you have acne, the problem is the acne, the discomfort, the embarrassment of what it looks like on your skin. And if there's a product to help you combat what you're experiencing, people would buy that. Or say you're like a holistic practitioner that works on the inside of the body so that that person who has acne can, fix this from within through herbs, supplement, diet, lifestyle changes. Understanding the problem and understanding how your product or service is the solution to that problem is extremely important. And, he takes it one step further, Alex Hormozi does, with this problem solution cycle and says, okay, well, after they're healed from the acne, like what's next? What would they be wanting or needing next? And we set up our product suite for visibility on purpose in this way. So, Pitch Party is our comprehensive, like full PR course, but what if a business owner isn't ready for that yet, right? Like, what if they don't have a website? What if they don't have a personal brand at all? What if they've never gotten like photos done for their business? What if they don't even know like what their message would be? Okay, we actually have a program called Find Your Irresistible that can help you get clarity on all of that, because we want to make sure that someone who comes into the pitch party program is already set up. Like, they already have those things. That way, when they learn, okay, how to write their pitches, who to contact, how to do the research, they can just like fly, right? So you're always thinking about what's that specific moment that someone needs my help, and is there a way I could help them before? Is there a way that I can help them after? I just thought that was brilliant. I was like, wow. And he gives the example of like, say you're a real estate agent or something like that. He was like, what would people need before they buy a house? Or say, someone's selling a house. What would that person need before they sell a house? Oh, they probably need photos done. They might need a staging company to come in. Like, always just thinking about that moment in the trajectory of that customer and what they need, and being the solution to that problem. Isn't it genius? Okay, sip of water here. If you're live, let me know if this is landing, because I get very excited about this stuff. Okay, so number 6. And this is really all of them. And I say all of them because I have one more kind of person I'll throw into the mix here. I didn't actually read this book. That's why I didn't include it in the full episode today. But it was Jim Edwards who wrote a book called Copywriting Secrets. And he said that no one wants to be sold to, but they love to buy things and spend money. So let that sink in. Like, no one wants to be sold to, but they love to buy. Like, we love to buy things as humans, but no one wants to be sold to. And he gave the example of a car salesman. He's like, when you feel like people are like flocking to you and they're like, what do you want to buy? Or even like when you go into like a furniture store and the person like follows you, they're like, what can I help you with? And you're like, okay, pause. I'm just browsing. No one wants to be sold to, but everyone likes spending money and buying. Okay, that's a caveat. Okay, so number 6, when I say all of them, I mean Jim Edwards of Copywriting Secrets, I mean Alex Hormozi, and I mean Seth Godin. Use simple language that anyone can understand. Alex Hormozi does this extremely well. If anyone has read his book, he has $100 million offers and he has $100 million leads. He literally says that this book was written for a 5-year-old. And he says it was written at that level because that's how he likes to, like, he just wants it to be simple. And some of these books are super jargony. So like, he was like, okay, I'm going to make it simple. Jim Edwards of Copywriting Secrets also said this, like, use simple language that anyone, aka your people, can actually understand. And I've seen this a lot in the like transformational service space, like a lot of the coaching world. They try to use a really like lofty transformational words that actually don't mean anything, that the ideal customer isn't actually saying. An example of this was like, I help you unlock your greatest, highest potential, or something like that. And I asked the question, I was like, is your customer actually saying those words? No, they're probably saying like, I need to leave this job because I really freaking hate it and I feel like my creativity is being suppressed. So finding the language that your people are actually using is so helpful. And I did this exercise with one of my friends. I said, hey, like, I want to make sure that for pitch party, I want to make sure we're speaking to those people. And he was like, I said, why would you find this valuable? He was like, probably because I'm doing all these really cool things and I feel like not enough people know about it. I was like, oh, so simple. Yeah, simplicity. Meet your audience where they're at. It can be, yeah, so simple. So asking those questions of how are my ideal customers actually speaking about their challenges and their problems, and then bringing that into any kind of sales copy, any conversation, and like not overcomplicating it. I think, we think that it looks cool, but it like, does it work? No. So like, use simplified 5-year-old language that your people actually understand and speak to them. And especially if you're in like this service-based transformational coaching realm, people want real life examples of what it actually looks like. And I always gave this example with like, say you're like an executive coach and you focus on confidence. And it's like, okay, well, confidence, what does that mean? To one person, that could mean feeling comfortable to be able to speak in front of a room of board executives. That's confidence for one. Confidence for another person is to be able to go into social situations and, introduce themselves at a networking event. So, where is your person? How can you speak to them with those examples so that they can self-identify and go, "Ooh, me." Okay, and number 7, good brands tell stories. Think about all advertising TV commercials. Now, this one's funny because I don't watch TV, and I don't know about you guys, but maybe you watch TV. Who knows? They hardly even talk about the product. They literally, like, tell a story. That's what they do. It's so wild when you think about this, like, cereal commercials. It's like, oh, like, feeding your kids in the morning. It's not even like the cereal. Okay, drug companies do this extremely, extremely well. They have huge ad budgets. But they're like, "Oh, finally you can spend time with your family again." Like, cherish the moments. Or Olay, when I was preparing for this slogan came into my mind, "Love the skin you're in." Right? That has nothing to do with the product. They're not like, "Buy this lotion." It's like, "Love the skin you're in." And then they're, like, gently applying the lotion and their life is changed, right? So all good brands tell stories. So what's the story that you're telling? Oh, what was the greatest example too? Those ASPCA commercials with Sarah McLachlan, the arms of the angels. And you're, like, sitting there crying watching this commercial because it's, like, these poor dogs who you just wanna scoop up. Okay, she's telling a story, right? That company wants your donations. They want your money, but you don't feel like you're being sold to because they hit on your emotions. Smart, smart, smart. So I gave the drug company example. I gave the Olay example. Food, like cereal companies, foods, Dove. Yeah. Oh, this is good. Did you ever see the Dove commercial about how we see ourselves? Exactly. It's not, and it's almost like what I love about these types of people who are doing like TV ad commercials, even, ads on like Facebook and stuff these days for some of these bigger companies. They're not just thinking about the product. They're literally thinking about this story that they can tell around that product and how that story is actually going to sell the thing. But again, no one wants to be sold to. So they're doing this in a really, really creative way that ties into the heartstrings, like taps into your emotions, that sells you the outcome, that sells you the results, that tells a story, and that makes you want to go buy. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So many things. So I think the question is, how can we take this knowledge, especially with like TV commercials and like what they're doing with ads, and bring those types of stories into our own work? So I wrote down these questions. What's the story that you're actually telling? What's actually behind all of this? What transforms in someone's life as a result of purchasing your product, your service? I thought of this example. We have a client from Pitch Party who has a like DIY craft company, and she does a lot of corporate trainings. And you can go from that like burnt out corporate employee with no creativity, like not having fun, who's saying, "Oh, Sunday scaries," like another, what's the phrase? Same shit, different day, to this employee that's like Monday morning wakes up excited because they feel more creative, right? So again, it's not just about the product itself. So what's the story that you're actually telling? What happens as a result of what you sell? Because that's what people actually want, the result of what you're actually selling. And then the last little bonus one was no one wants to be sold to. They just love to buy things and spend money. So those are the 7 things I learned about marketing from Seth Godin and Alex Hormozi. I mean, there's so many more. I could definitely keep going today, but for the sake of time and this episode and like what our brains can handle, I think these are going to be really beneficial for all of you. And the beauty about knowing this stuff is that you always have this opportunity to put this into your own business. And that's what Lydia did a really good job about with the Find Your Irresistible course. So it's on sale until December 19th, by the way, is creating a framework to allow a business owner to reflect on questions, not like these specifically, but to help you get that clarity for yourself. And having a framework is super, super helpful. Just like today, I went through this, tiered list 1 through 7. Find Your Irresistible offers that type of framework so that you can just like cozy up by the fire in the winter, reflect on where is my business going in 2024? What do I want to be known for? What's making me stand out? And those are the types of questions that you'll be able to answer as a result of Find Your Irresistible. So if you liked this type of content in this episode, please let me know, because I can geek on this stuff forever. So I just really appreciate it. Leave a rating, leave a review. We have some really big goals for this podcast in 2024. And we'd just be so grateful if you would, support that. So share this with a friend if you liked it, tag them, invite them into the Facebook group. And thank you so much for listening. I hope everyone has a beautiful day ahead, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.